After a bitter fight at her mother-in-law's house, my husband threw me out onto a deserted night highway and drove away. I stood shivering under the pouring rain when a sleek black limousine stopped beside me. A tall man in an expensive suit stepped out and said calmly, "Get in, Marina. Play my wife for one evening, and I will help you destroy your husband in ways he cannot even imagine. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new stories." The cold rain soaked through my clothes, but those words cut through the numbness like a blade. My heart raced with fear, anger, and a sudden spark of dangerous hope. Marina sat in the worn armchair by the window, staring into the emptiness. Her mother-in-law's house had always felt like a prison. Heavy curtains, old furniture that smelled of dust and someone else's memories. This family dinner had promised to be unbearable from the very beginning. Pavel had insisted they come, repeating the same tired phrase the entire drive. "Family is sacred, Marina. Mother needs to see her grandson, and we must show everyone that everything is fine." But Marina knew the true price of those words too well. For Pavel, family had long become nothing more than a convenient screen behind which he hid his need for complete control. Their marriage was cracking apart, and the wounds from years of resentment refused to heal. The scandal erupted suddenly, like dry grass catching fire. It started with a seemingly innocent remark from her mother-in-law, spoken in that cloyingly sweet tone that always set Marina's teeth on edge. "Marina, dear, you don't take care of yourself at all. Working from morning till night, and the house is completely forgotten. A man needs a well-groomed wife, not this eternal exhaustion of yours." Marina tried to smooth things over. She forced a smile and answered lightly, "Elena Sergeyevna, I'm trying. Work is also for the family." But Pavel, sitting opposite, immediately exploded as if he had been waiting for any excuse. "There you go again. Do you think I'm blind? Do you think I don't see how you smile at your colleagues, how you flirt? And what about our child? Do you even remember him sometimes?" Marina froze. This was his favorite weapon. Blackmail with their son. Little Mikita, their 5-year-old boy, was sleeping safely at home, but Pavel knew exactly how to use him. "If you ever dare to leave, I will take Nikita away. And believe me, the courts always side with the father who has a business, connections, and a stable income. Who are you? Just a working mother drowning in debts." Elena Sergeyevna quickly poured oil on the fire, as she always did. "Pavel is absolutely right, dear. In our time, women knew their place. Home, children, husband, that's what matters. All these careers of yours only bring nerves and broken families." Tears burned Marina's eyes. Her throat tightened. She stood up sharply. The chair scraped loudly against the old parquet. "I work because someone has to pay the bills while you, Pavel, waste the last money on your business friends and endless dinners." Her voice trembled, but she could no longer stop. "Your so-called business hasn't brought a single decent penny into the house for 3 years. Only debts and empty promises. That was a mistake." Pavel's face turned crimson. He jumped up, grabbed her wrist so hard that bruises immediately appeared, and literally dragged her out of the room under the shocked gazes of the relatives. "We're leaving right now," he barked so loudly that the glass pendants on the chandelier rang. In the car, a heavy, almost tangible silence hung. Cold autumn rain lashed the windows. Pavel drove along the empty night highway, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. "You humiliated me in front of the whole family, in front of my mother." His voice shook with rage. "You are nothing without me, absolutely nothing. Without me, you're a zero, and you will never see Nikita again, never." Marina remained silent, staring into the darkness. Her heart pounded with fear. She had endured this many times. His betrayals, his affairs that he didn't even hide, his total financial control, his threats. But tonight, something inside her finally broke. She turned to him and whispered, yet every word sounded clear. "Stop the car. I'm not going any further with you." Pavel slammed on the brakes. The car skidded on the wet road and stopped sideways across the highway. He turned to her, eyes burning with fury and some sick triumph. "Get out, walk. Let's see how your proud independence gets you to the city without money. Let's see how you sing then." The passenger door flew open. Marina stepped out into the freezing downpour. The car roared and sped away, leaving her completely alone on the black, rain-slicked asphalt in the middle of the night. The cold pierced to the bone. Rain fell in sheets, water streamed down her face, mixing with tears. Marina wrapped her arms around herself, but it didn't help. Wind whipped her cheeks. There was no one around, only the occasional whoosh of tires from passing cars. She walked forward, not knowing where. Her high heels slipped in puddles. Every step hurt. What have I done? How will I get back to Nikita? Fear tightened her throat. What if no one picks her up? What if Pavel was right and she really was nothing without him? Despair pressed down like a heavy stone. She thought of her son sleeping in his warm bed, and her heart ached unbearably. He would use Nikita to keep her trapped. Traitor. But how could she leave? He had everything. The house, the car, connections. She had only debts and exhaustion. Marina stopped, leaning against a wet pole. Her body shook, teeth chattered. No one would help. She was alone. At that moment, headlights cut through the darkness. A car approached slowly. It was a long black limousine that still looked elegant even in the rain. It stopped a few meters away. The rear door opened with a soft click. A tall man stepped out. He wore a perfectly tailored dark blue suit that somehow remained dry. In his hand, he held a large black umbrella with a wooden handle. He walked up and stopped right in front of her, ignoring the puddles under his polished shoes. Marina, I have a very specific offer for you. Get in right now. Play my wife for one evening. In return, I will help you take revenge on your husband in a way he cannot even dream of in his worst nightmares. Marina froze, unable to believe her ears. Who was he? How did he know her name? The rain drummed on the umbrella he held over her. Fear mixed with curiosity. This was a turning point, from total helplessness to something unknown that promised hope. She hesitated, but cold and despair pushed her forward. Who are you? She asked, her voice trembling. The man smiled slightly. Call me Roman, and trust me, this offer can change your life. Marina stood frozen under the pouring rain, her soaked dress clinging to her body like a second skin. The stranger's words echoed in her mind, both terrifying and strangely tempting. Roman held the umbrella steady over her, his calm gaze never wavering. Who are you really? She asked, her teeth chattering. How do you know my name? He tilted his head slightly, as if deciding how much to reveal. I know many things, Marina, including the fact that your husband is racing home right now, pleased with himself, convinced he has finally put you in your place. I also know you have a 5-year-old son he uses as the perfect leash to keep you trapped. His words hit harder than any slap. Marina took an involuntary step back. Have you been watching us? Not exactly. I observe certain people. Pavel Morozov has been on my radar for months. His shady deals, his connections, his methods. You simply appeared in the frame by accident. Roman stepped closer, keeping the umbrella perfectly positioned so not a single drop touched her. He smelled of expensive cologne, fine leather, and something far more intoxicating, power. I don't get into cars with strangers, she whispered, though her body was already giving in to the cold. Do you have a better choice? He asked quietly. Another 10 or 12 minutes in this freezing rain, and your body will start shutting down. First uncontrollable shivering, then confusion, then unconsciousness. And who knows what kind of person stops next? Not every truck driver has good intentions, Marina. He wasn't threatening. He was simply stating facts, and that made it even more frightening. Marina glanced at the black limousine. Tinted windows, the low hum of the engine, warm golden light spilling from the open door. It looked like both a trap and salvation. What exactly does play your wife mean? She asked, hugging herself tighter. Exactly what you heard. I have an important meeting tonight, not just any dinner, the kind where every guest is either a threat or an opportunity. I need a woman by my side, not a pretty doll, but someone smart, composed, able to read people and handle pressure. Someone who won't ask unnecessary questions until I choose to answer them. And what do I get in return? I will help you get your son back. Legally, safely, and permanently cut Pavel off from any chance to blackmail you with him. Plus, enough financial support for you to stand on your own feet. This is not charity, it's a deal. Marina felt something crack inside her. The word deal sounded dirty, yet it also sounded like an escape. I'm not a prostitute, she said through gritted teeth. Roman's lips curved in a faint smile. I'm not asking for that. I need an illusion. One evening, one carefully rehearsed performance. No touches without your clear consent. No obligations after midnight. Just a well-played role. The rain intensified. A gust of wind threw icy droplets into her face. Marina shivered violently. If I agree, what do I do right now? Get in the car and warm up. Then we'll drive to my place. It's not far, about 30 minutes. You'll change, freshen up, and we'll head to the event. After that, just listen carefully and follow my lead. Nothing more. She looked into his eyes. There was no pity, no lust, only cold calculation and something else. Interest, excitement, perhaps. Marina took a deep breath, the air heavy with wet asphalt and fear. All right, she whispered. Good. I don't deceive people I make deals with. That's bad business. He offered his hand, not to grab her, but to help her step into the limousine. After a second's hesitation, Marina placed her ice-cold palm in his. The warmth inside the car was almost overwhelming. Soft leather seats, gentle lighting, the scent of fine wood and citrus. A tall thermos and a cup waited on the seat beside her. Roman sat opposite. The door closed with a soft click, and the car moved smoothly forward. Drink the tea while it's hot, he said, nodding toward the thermos. In 20 minutes we'll arrive. You'll have time to get ready. Dresses, shoes, everything is prepared in your size. Marina wrapped both hands around the cup. The heat burned her fingers pleasantly. She took a sip. Strong black tea with bergamot and a slight bitterness. The best tea she had ever tasted. Who are you really? She asked softly. Roman looked out at the blurred lights of the highway. A man who hates it when children are used as weapons, and who really dislikes your husband. The rest you'll learn later. He turned to her. Now, Marina, smile. In an hour you must look like the happiest wife in the world. The drive to Roman's mansion passed in a blur. When the car finally stopped, Marina's heart began racing again. The bathroom in his home was larger than her entire bedroom. A huge mirror reflected her pale, exhausted face. She closed the door, leaned against it, and tried to steady her breathing. Everything was happening too fast. On a chair lay a large white box tied with a black satin ribbon. Inside was a breathtaking dress, deep emerald green that shifted between dark forest tones and bright jewel flashes depending on the light. The fabric felt like liquid silk. Beside it lay matching lingerie of the finest lace, black patent heels with striking red soles, and a tiny clutch. Marina looked at her reflection again. Wet hair, red eyes, trembling lips. She looked exactly how she felt. A woman thrown onto the side of the road like garbage. Yet she opened the cosmetic bag and began working with almost mechanical movements. Who is he? Why me? Is this a trap? Panic rose in waves, but every time it threatened to overwhelm her, she remembered Nikita, and that angered her. She finished in 18 minutes. When she stepped out of the bathroom, Roman stood by the window, looking at the night city. He turned slowly, his gaze sweeping over her in a cool, appraising way. Excellent, he said. You look stunning. Exactly what we need. They left 3 minutes later. The limousine glided through the wet Moscow streets. Marina sat opposite Roman, the cool silk of the dress embracing her skin. Where are we going? She asked firmly. To a private dinner at a mansion on Rubliovka. 20 guests. Half of them decide who will own entire industries tomorrow. The other half want to be the ones deciding. I'm supposed to pretend to be your wife. Yes, we've been married 3 years. We met in London. No children. You work with modern art and charity. You're intelligent, a bit reserved, very beautiful, and you never raise your voice, even when angry. Marina gave a small, bitter smile for the first time that evening. So I have to be your opposite. Precisely. He handed her a thin folder. Background story. Names, dates, places. Read and memorize. No time for questions later. Everything was written clearly like a script, even how she adjusted her hair when nervous, using her left hand with 2 fingers. Do you always prepare this thoroughly? She asked, eyes on the pages. Only when the stakes are higher than money. The car slowed. Ahead were wrought iron gates, security, cameras. Roman leaned closer. Simple rules. Stay by my side. Smile naturally, but not too warmly. Answer questions briefly, then shift the conversation back to them. These people love talking about themselves, their deals, yachts, victories. If I put my hand on your waist, don't pull away, but don't press closer. Make it look natural. If you feel any danger, squeeze my hand twice. I'll understand immediately. Marina met his eyes. And what about Pavel? Tonight, you just play the role. Everything else comes tomorrow and the day after, when he won't even know where the blow came from. The limousine door opened. The night air smelled of pine trees and wealth. Roman stepped out first, then offered his hand. This time, Marina didn't hesitate. His warm, dry fingers closed around hers, giving her more strength than the tea and heated car ever could. They walked along the illuminated stone path toward the modern mansion of glass, concrete, and steel. Before the steps, Roman whispered, "Remember, you are not a victim. You are a weapon." Marina straightened her back and stepped inside. The grand hall breathed quiet luxury. Dark wood panels, crystal chandeliers casting soft light, and enormous windows overlooking the dark forest. Guests spoke in low voices, as if afraid to disturb the invisible fortune surrounding them. Roman kept his hand lightly on Marina's elbow, a touch that felt both protective and natural. The first person to approach them was a short man in his 50s, with graying temples and sharp, lizard-like eyes. Marina recognized him immediately from business magazines. Roman smiled politely. "Oleg Vadimovich, good to see you." The man shook Roman's hand but looked straight at Marina. "Never thought you'd actually get married, and so successfully." Roman's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Marina, this is Oleg Vadimovich Ratnikov, one of the few men who knows how to build empires and how to tear them down when necessary." Marina gave a small, elegant nod and a measured smile. "Very pleased to meet you. Roman has told me quite a lot about you." The lie slipped out easily. She surprised even herself. Ratnikov narrowed his eyes. "And what exactly has he said?" "That you always pay your debts, even if you have to pay them twice." A brief silence followed. Then Ratnikov laughed, short, dry, but genuine. "You have a dangerous wife, Roman." "I know," Roman replied calmly. "That's why I chose her." They moved on. Adrenaline hummed through Marina's veins. This felt like a high-stakes game where chips were not money, but power itself. The next hour and a half passed in a carefully controlled fog. Champagne glasses she barely touched, polite smiles, Roman's hand occasionally resting on her waist at exactly the right moments. She spoke only when necessary, short, precise phrases, sometimes inserting a subtle sting that made the listener pause, sometimes gently steering the conversation back to the other person. She played the role perfectly, and for brief moments, she almost believed the illusion herself. At one point, she caught her reflection in a tall mirror. A tall woman in a deep emerald dress stood there with straight posture, confident eyes, and no trace of recent tears. She looked powerful. She looked like she belonged. Roman leaned close to her ear. "See the man by the fireplace in the dark blue suit? He's been watching us for 10 minutes. Marina turned her head slowly. Her heart dropped like a stone. Pavel stood there, glass in hand, wearing an expensive suit she had never seen. His face showed a mix of shock, rage, and confusion. "He's here," she whispered. "Of course," Roman answered calmly. "This is his big night, his desperate attempt to enter this circle. He doesn't know yet that the circle has already closed around him, and that he is not a guest, but prey." Roman took 2 glasses of champagne from a passing waiter and handed one to her. "Drink. You'll need steady hands." Marina took a sip. The cold bubbles helped. Pavel finally pushed away from the fireplace and walked toward them, trying to look confident. But Marina saw everything, the tension in his neck, the forced smile that looked more like a grimace. She knew him too well. When he came close enough, his voice cracked on the first word. "Marina." Roman turned slowly, as if noticing him for the first time. "Pavel Morozov, correct?" His tone was pleasant, almost friendly. "We haven't been introduced. Roman Volkov." Pavel froze. The name clearly meant something to him. "You are that Volkov?" "The very one," Roman nodded. "And this is my wife, Marina." Pavel stared at her. Fury, disbelief, and fear mixed in his eyes. "What are you doing here with him?" Marina felt a cold wave rise inside her. Not fear, but pure, sharp anger. She smiled the same calm smile she had practiced all evening. "I'm here because I wanted to be. And you, Pavel, seem to have come begging for money from people who don't like it when someone uses children as blackmail. Pavel turned pale. Roman continued without raising his voice. Tomorrow morning, all your accounts will be frozen pending investigation. Documents about your business schemes, money laundering through shell companies, abuse of your position at the bank, and threats to deprive your wife of parental rights have already reached the prosecutor's office. Everything is recorded, verified, and completely legal. Pavel opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. You can't do this. I already have, Roman said quietly. Marina stepped closer to her soon-to-be ex-husband. For the first time in years, she looked him straight in the eyes without fear. You will never see Nikita again without my permission. Never. If you try, you will go to prison for a long time. She turned to Roman. I want to go home. Of course, my dear. They walked toward the exit. Pavel remained standing in the middle of the hall, a lonely figure in an expensive suit that suddenly seemed worthless. In the limousine, Marina finally allowed herself to breathe freely. Trembling returned, but now it was trembling of relief. Roman poured her a glass of aged cognac. You were magnificent. I was terrified to death, she admitted. I know, and yet you did everything perfectly. He paused for a moment. Now let's talk about my promise. I have a nice apartment in the city ready for you. Ownership documents will be in your name tomorrow. An account with enough money to start over will also be ready. Lawyers, court, divorce, custody, everything is arranged. You will only need to be a mother to your son. Marina looked at him for a long time. Why are you doing all this? Roman turned to the window. Once I had a sister. Her husband also liked to keep the child on a short leash. Then my sister disappeared. Officially, suicide. Unofficially, no one ever found the body. He looked back at her. I don't save everyone, but when I see the same picture, I step in. Marina finished the cognac and set the glass down. Thank you. You saved yourself today. I only gave you the stage. The car stopped near a beautiful old building in a quiet district. Roman got out and opened the door for her. The rain had stopped. The sky was clear and full of stars. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, people will come with documents. Now go and rest. You've earned it. Marina stepped out. She looked at Roman. Will we see each other again? He smiled, this time genuinely. Only if you want. From now on, you make the decisions. She nodded, turned, and walked to the entrance. Light glowed in the window of the children's room. The nanny Roman had arranged had already brought Nikita here. Marina opened the door and for the first time in many years stepped into her own home, a place where her son waited and where no one would ever hold her on a chain again. Marina stepped across the threshold and closed the door behind her. The hallway smelled of fresh paint and something warm, vanilla and childhood. Soft light glowed from the children's room at the end of the corridor. Her heart squeezed with such force that for a second she forgot how to breathe. She kicked off the elegant heels, not caring where they landed, and walked barefoot toward the light. Nikita was sleeping peacefully in a new bed, his small hand clutching his favorite stuffed bear. The nanny, a kind woman of about 40, rose from the armchair and smiled gently. He fell asleep right away, she whispered. Asked about Mommy only once. I told him you'd be home soon. Marina nodded, unable to speak. She sat on the edge of the bed and carefully stroked her son's hair. Warm, alive, safe. Tears she had held back all evening finally rolled down her cheeks, silent, healing tears. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid that someone would see them and use them against her. She stayed there until the first gray light of dawn touched the windows. Only then did she go to the kitchen, made herself strong tea, and sat by the window, watching the quiet street wake up. The emerald dress still hugged her body like a reminder of the night that had changed everything. She touched the fabric and smiled faintly. A role, just one evening. But that role had given her back her life. The next days passed in a whirlwind that felt both exhausting and liberating. Lawyers appeared exactly at 10 o'clock, as Roman had promised. Documents were signed, accounts opened, and protective orders prepared. Pavel's world began to crumble with terrifying speed. Frozen assets, urgent investigations, canceled meetings. He tried to call her dozens of times, left furious messages, then desperate ones, and finally threats that no longer had any power. Marina didn't answer even once. She simply blocked the number and kept moving forward. 2 weeks later, she stood in the courtroom for the first hearing. Pavel looked like a shadow of his former self, pale, unshaven, eyes darting nervously. When their gazes met, Marina didn't look away. She held her head high in a simple but elegant dress, no longer trying to please or justify herself. The judge listened attentively to the evidence. The recorded threats, financial manipulations, witness statements, everything Roman's people had gathered was flawless. Custody was granted to Marina without question. Child support was set at a level that made Pavel's face twist in impotent rage. When the gavel struck, Marina felt as if heavy chains had finally fallen from her wrists. Outside the courthouse, a light autumn wind played with her hair. She took Nikita's hand and walked with him to the waiting car. Her son looked up at her with trusting eyes. "Mommy, are we going home now? To our new home?" "Yes, my love, to our home, and no one will ever take you away from me again." That evening, she allowed herself a small celebration. She baked Nikita's favorite apple pie, read him 3 bedtime stories instead of 1, and then sat on the balcony with a glass of wine. The city lights sparkled below like scattered diamonds. For the first time, she wasn't calculating how to survive until the next paycheck. She was simply living. Roman called only once, 10 days after that fateful night. "How are you?" His voice was calm, deep, the same as she remembered. "Free," Marina answered honestly, "and grateful. You did all the hard work yourself. I just opened the door." She smiled into the phone. "Maybe one day I'll want to thank you in person. Over coffee. No roles, no deals." A short pause. Then she heard the smile in his voice. "Whenever you're ready, Marina, the choice is yours now." She didn't call him back right away. She needed time to heal, to learn how to be herself again without fear, without constant control. Weeks turned into months. Nikita started kindergarten and came home every day with new drawings and stories. Marina returned to work, but now it was on her own terms, with flexible hours and respect from colleagues who suddenly saw her in a different light. One cold December evening, when snow was quietly falling outside, she dialed the number she had saved but never used. "Roman, it's Marina." "I know," he answered softly. "I've been waiting for this call." They met at a small, quiet cafe away from the noisy center. No limousine, no expensive suits. Just a man in a warm coat and a woman who had learned her own worth. They talked for hours, about life, about losses, about second chances. He didn't push, he simply listened. And for the first time in many years, Marina felt that someone was looking at her not as a tool, not as a victim, not as a convenient wife, but simply as a woman. Spring came. New leaves appeared on the trees, and with them, a cautious, fragile hope in Marina's heart. She and Roman began seeing each other more often, slowly, without rush, without contracts or illusions. Just 2 people who had both known pain and now chose to build something real. One warm evening, they walked along the embankment. Nikita ran ahead, chasing pigeons. Roman took Marina's hand. "You know," he said quietly, "when I stopped the car that night, I thought I was just helping someone settle an old score. I didn't expect to meet a woman who would remind me what strength really looks like." Marina stopped and looked into his eyes. "And I didn't expect that a stranger on a night highway would give me back not only my son, but myself." He leaned in and kissed her, gently, without demand, full of quiet promise. The kind of kiss that doesn't start a role, but begins a real story. Years later, when friends asked how they met, Marina would smile mysteriously and say, "On a rainy night, when I thought my life was over, it had only just begun." And somewhere in the distance, the echo of old fears finally faded, leaving only the sound of her son's laughter and the warm hand of the man who once offered her a deal and ended up giving her freedom. If this story moved you, hit subscribe and turn on the bell, like if you believe every woman deserves a new beginning. Write in the comments, what would you do in Marina's place? Thank you for watching until the end. See you in the next story.